another week on RTO. Busy day today. Three shows to do. We've got the usual shows, and then we've got a special with Richard McCook on Simple Minds Top 10 Songs. But the first thing this morning, we are going to start, because it is early morning, we're going to start off with a viewer's request for the band Budgie. Very underrated rock band, formed in Cardiff, Wales in 1967. The original lineup, of course, was Bert Shelley on the vocals and bass, Tony Borge on guitars, Ray Phillips on the drums. We had a few changes, and sadly now, earlier this year, we lost Bert Shelley on the 10th of January. I think they're a great band. I love their style of rock. There's not, to be quite honest, there isn't a bad album. Some of the later ones are a little bit weaker than the classics, but on the whole, they're a really good band. They released 11 albums in total. So we're going to have a look at these albums. So, coming in at number 11, we have the 10th album that was released in 1982, and it's Deliver Us From Evil. Playing on here, the only original member at this time was Bert Shelley on vocals and bass, John Thomas on guitar, Steve Williams drums, and Duncan McKay on keyboards. First track on here is called War with Russia. It's not a bad song, but I think it's just a little bit overproduced. It's very clean cut produced, and keyboards, I'll just cringe a little bit. Keyboards in Budgie, no. It's an alright track. It's not brilliant, but it's listenable. Don't Cry, it's a good song, but I can't get over the keyboards in it. Get rid of the keyboards, you know, that's Budgie, but the keyboards sort of put a little bit of a dampers on it for me. Truth Drug, it's the production on the drums is a bit mediocre. Even Bert Shelley doesn't sound right on this. Young Girl, probably the worst song that Budgie ever did. There's too much keyboards in it, not enough guitar. Flowers in the Attic, it's very 80s and not a particular favourite of mine. Or NORAD Doomsday City, it's okay, it's not brilliant. Give Me the Truth, it's probably one of the best songs on the album. It's got that classic sounding Budgie, and Burke sounds pretty good on that. Alison is a wishy-washy 80s ballad that we don't want to talk about. Finger on the Button, it's good. It's got a nice riff to it. It's not too bad. And then the last track, Hold On to Love, probably the best. It is the best track on the album. It really is proper Budgie with them great driving riffs. This is an album it is the weakest album. The keyboards don't do anything for me. I just find it very hard to listen to this one now. I mean, at the time when it came out, I suppose I thought it was good, but now it's very dated. Unfortunately, I can only give this an RTO ranking of 2 out of 10 because there's only a few tracks on there now that I really like. Again, although they never put out a bad album, this is probably the worst one they put out. Okay, then coming in at number 10, we have the 11th and final album. It was released in 2006. First official studio album album in 24 years. It was called Youre All Living in Cuckooland. Again, with different lineup, we got Burke Shelley as ever on the vocals and bass, guitar Simon Leaves, Steve Williams and drums, who's been with them a little while. Justice, this isn't too bad, sounds like proper Budgie. You can pick out the bass and vocals, terrific track, I like that one. Dead Men Don't Talk, some nice guitar effects on here from Simon Lee. Bass sounds great, Burke sounds good as well. We're All Living in Cuckooland. It's a bit lackluster, it's not the best track on the album. It's pleasant enough to listen to, but it just lacks that drive you get with Budgie. Falling, nice riffs in this, but it just needs a little bit more beef. Love Is Enough. I like this, you get little bits of acoustic guitar, so it's not bad. Very, very strong track. Tell Me, acoustic track, and it's very good. Really like that track. Don't Want to Find That Girl. Some good riffs, some great drumming here from Simon Williams, and it sounds like classic Budgie actually. Captain, another acoustic track. Not keen on this one, it's a little bit boring. I Don't Want to Throw You. Nice little racker, great vocal from Burke Shelley on this. Pretty solid. My favourite track next, I'm Compressing the Comb on a Cockerel's Head. Great title, it's got some great riffs in this. Favourite track on the album, it just does sound like classic Budgie. I think this is a lot better than the previous album, because it for Deliver Us From Evil, I think they've gone back to their old sound. There's no keyboards on it, and I think this is about good way to end. It's a pretty solid album, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Oh dear, I've got a croggy throat today. That's better. Okay then, coming in at number 9. Go to the 6th album now, released in 1976. If I Were Brittania, I Would Waive the Rules. I got the classic lineup on here. We got Burke Shelley, Tony Borge, and Steve Williams, whom to me is like the second classic lineup. Sorry, we've got guest musicians Richard Dunn on keyboards. First track is my favourite. It's one of my favourite Budgie songs, and Neggin. It's a great little boogie track. Great vocal from Burke Shelley on this. Pretty good track. If I Were Brittania, I'd Waive the Rule. Title track. Bit of a funky rock on here. Love the guitar riffs from Tony on this. Great guitar player. Pretty good stuff. Next track, You're Opening the Doors. Not too bad. Just a solid rocker. Nothing wrong with that one. Quacktor and Bureaucrats. Love Burke's bass line on this. Some really nice work again from Tony. Good track. Sky High Percentage. Again, great drumming on this from Steve. And you get them little bits from Tony on the guitar. Great stuff. Heaven Knows Our Name. Nice vocal from Burke. Great vocal voice he had. Some nice guitar bits from Tony. Good track. Black Velvet Station, the last track on the album. Solid track. It's good old fashioned hard rock. Nothing wrong with that one. Good album. I like this album. It's got some good tracks on it. Just a good hard rock album. And I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, and coming in at number 8, we get to the 9th album now, released in 1981. This is Nightflight, and this one is Burke Shelley on the bass, John Thomas on the guitars, and Steve Williams on the drums. Track 1 is I Turn to Stone. Not a bad track. Some nice guitar work here from John Thomas. And then you get one of Burke Shelley's great bass lines. Keeping a Rendezvous. Love the riff in this one. Really strong track. Good little rock track that one is. Reaper of the Glory. This is a bit of a bluesy rock track. This one. Great vocal from Burke. Brilliant stuff. Love that track. She used me up, sorry. It's just a solid rocker. Great guitar riffs from John Thomas. Burke's vocal is great. Great bass line. Just an all-round great track. Don't Lay Down and Die. Steve Williams drums is good. Nice guitar work from John Thomas. Really good. Then we get Apparatus. Probably one of my favourite acoustics. Slower tracks by Budgie. Love the harmonies on this. It's really good. Gentle rock song with a good bass line from Burke Shelley. Then we get my favourite track on this one, Superstar. Great little rocker. Some strong riffs. And the vocal from Burke is solid as ever. Change Your Ways. This isn't too bad. Needed a little bit more heaviness on it, but it's a good track. Entitled Lullaby, the last track, I think it's an okay track. Nothing special, but some nice guitar work from John Thomas. Bit of a mixed bag on this one. Got some really good tracks on this. A couple of tracks on here. A little bit wishy-washy, but on the whole, it's a half decent listen, and I really enjoy this album. And I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay then, coming in at number 7. I've got the 7th album, released in 1978. Impeccable. This was guitarist Tony Burge, his last album. So on here we've got Burke Shelley, Tony Burge, and Steve Williams. First track, Melt the Ice Away. Great track. A little bit proggy in places, nothing wrong with that. The bass line from Burke is great. Some great guitar work from Tony. Solid track. Love Me For You. Start again, Ian. Love For You and Me. Tony's riffs are great on this. And strong Budgie riffs. Great rap vocal from Burke. Great little track. All at Sea. I think this is one of the weaker tracks on the album. It just lacks something. Dish It Up. Funky rock song now. Great vocal from Burke. The bass line's terrific. Really like that one. Then we get my favourite track on here, Pyramids. Great guitar work from Tony. Some nice little solos and little quirky bits. And then we've got that great bass line from Burke Shelley. Terrific stuff. Fantastic track that one is. Smile Boy, Smile, again dominated by the riffs of Tony Burge. Great guitar player. So underrated, just like this band. Then we get I Am a Faker Too. Oh, incredible guitar work on this. Some of Tony's best. And you get that lovely bass line from Burke. It's just another brilliant track. Don't Go Away. I've always found this a little bit strange. Not a favourite of mine. Just doesn't really sound what you expect from Budgie. And then the last track is Don't Dilute the Water. Great track from Budgie. Love the bass line again. Drives the song along. And the drums from Steve Williams on this are brilliant. Solid album. Got some great rock tracks on this. I do like playing this one. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 6, we go to the 8th album, released in 1980. Power Supply. This is the first album that John Thomas appears on. So we've got Burke Shelley on the vocals and bass, John Thomas on the guitar and slide guitar, and Steve Williams on the drums. First track, 4-am smash. Great rock track. Strong riffs from John Thomas, the new guitarist. Really good vocal from Burke as ever. Hellbender. One of Burke Shelley's great bass lines on this. The drumming from Steve Williams is pretty good as well. Good track. Love that track. Then we get Heavy Revolution. Thumping track again. The bass line and that great vocal from Burke Shelley. Terrific track. Gunslinger. Doesn't fit after all the rockers. It's a little bit weak, but it's got some good drumming on it. Give it that. Then we get Power Supply, my favourite track, title track, great rocker. Again, it's just what you expect from Budgie. Great bass lines, great drumming and some terrific guitar work. Secrets in My Head, solid track. Again, some impeccable guitar playing from John Thomas. Time to Remember. Now, this is a slower track. I do find some of their slower tracks a little bit strange at times. Although this has got some nice guitar work and the track itself doesn't flow very well. I think they were a band that should have just steered clear of slower tracks, just the hard rock stuff, because that's what you're good at. Crime Against the World. This just says what it says on the tin from Budgie. Great rock track, great foot tapping stuff, bit of a head bang as well. It's just a great track. Solid album, quite heavy in places, really heavy album this is. Love this album, and I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8.2. Okay, then coming in at number 5, we have the 5th album, released in 1975, Bandolier. It's the first album that featured Steve Williams on the drums, and this was the first, and he then appeared on every album after concluding this one. So this is Burke Shelley, Tony Borge and Steve Williams breaking all the house rules. We're into some classic Budgie here. The riffs are great. It's heavy. It's a great vocal from Burke. Brilliant track. Slip Away. That's a slow track that I just can't get on with. As I said previously, I wish they would have steered clear of these because they weren't very good at them. Who do you want your love for? I like the funky bass line on this from Burke, and some great little guitar bits from Tony. Really strong track. I Can't See My Feelings. Great track. Driving bass line from Burke. The guitars fit round that great bass line. Solid track. I Ain't No Mountain. Steve Williams is drumming and this is very tight. Great bass line with it. Great engine room. These two were, and it's a great track. Now we get a track called Napoleon Boner Part 1. So it's a little bit of a slow and melodic start, and then we go into Part 2 of the Napoleon Boner. Part 2, it's called. This is great. Put them together and this sounds great. It's a great track. I love how that's start of it builds up and then we get some great rock music. Great way to end the album. Favourite bit of the album for me. Very good album. Again, play this one quite a lot. The tracks on here are just great. It's classic Budgie. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. Okay then, coming in at number 4. We go to the 3rd album, released in 1973. One of the great covers, Never Turn Your Back on a Friend. This is that original lineup of Burke, Shelley, Tony Borge and Ray Phillips. This was Ray's last album as well. Opens up with the most popular track done by Budgie, Bread Fan, classic track. Great track, just love the riffs in this. Then we get a cover version. Baby Please Don't Go. Do-do-do-do-do. It's not a bad version. I think everybody's covered this at some stage. AC/DC have done it. It's okay. Not a bad version. Then we've got You Know I Always Love You. Probably my favourite slow track from Budgie. It's a nice acoustics feel to it. Really, really good. I actually like that one. Then one of my favourite titles of a Budgie song, You're the Biggest Thing Since Powdered Milk. Great drumming from Ray Phillips on this. He was a great drummer. This is almost Black Sabbath style riffing. Great vocal from Burke. And probably the best guitar solo from Tiny Burge on the album. Brilliant track. Then we get In the Grip of a Tire Fitter's Hand. Solid track. It's just driven by the bass line again. Solid stuff. Riding My Nightmare. It's a bit of a slow track. Not a particular favourite of mine. Parents. It's the last track. It's quite a long track. It's quite mellow in places. I love the guitar work from Tony on this. And that's what makes it brilliant. The guitar work on this is superb. Just a solid track. This is a great album. Do play this quite a lot, especially You're the Biggest Thing Since Powdered Milk. It's one of my favourite tracks by Budgie. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.8. Okay, top 3. Difficult, because these are all great albums. So coming in at number 3 is the second album, released in 1972. Squawk. Burke Shelley on vocals, bass and mellotron on piano. Tony Borge on guitar and Ray Phillips on the drums. Whiskey River. Love that bass line. What a great vocal from Burke Shelley. Solid way to start the album. Brilliant stuff. Let me get my favourite track on this one. Rockin' Man. Just that opening riff with a little bit of drumming from Ray. Then Tony Burke comes in on the guitar. The bass comes in. Brilliant stuff. Rolling Home Again. Not a particular favourite of mine. It's a bit folky. It doesn't sound that brilliant for me. Make Me Happy. Funky rock stuff. Give me the heavy stuff. You know, you're a heavy rock band, not a funky folk band. Hot Docker's Armpit. Great riff. Brilliant track this is. Really solid stuff. Drugstore Woman. Again, that bass line blows you away. Then the riffs from Tony. The percussion on this is a bit different, but it's great. Let me get a little short thing called Bottled. Maybe short, but some great guitar work from Tony and an unbelievable bass line from Burke. Young is a World. It's one of them tracks that starts off nice and gentle and just builds up and builds up with the extra layers of great riffing and bass. Great track. Stranded. Great rocker to end the album. Some great riffs in here and licks from Tony. Drumming from Ray. Brilliant song. Another solid album. Some of the funky ones are a little bit weird, but on the whole, the rockers are just great. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 2, we go to that debut album, the self-titled from 1971, Budgie. So it's Tony Borge, Burke Shelley and Ray Phillips. Opens up with guts. This is just brilliant. That riff from Tony, absolutely belting. Just love it. One of my favourite tracks by Budgie. Everything in My Heart, one of them weird acoustic minute things. It's quite good though. Then we get The Author. This is my favourite track on here. I love Burke Shelley's vocal on this. The riffs from Tony again are just brilliant. Great drumming again from Ray. Play this track to death. Then we get another great track. Nude Degenerating Parachutist Woman, sorry. Love the start of this. The drums from Ray Phillips are brilliant. And then you get that nice jammy rock riff. And then you get Burke Shelley's bass line just comes through it. Just brilliant stuff. Great track. Then we get Rape of the Locks. Love the opening to this. Tony's guitar riffs are brilliant. The guitar sounds great on this. All Night Petrol. The bass line from Burke Shelley is outstanding on this. I'll throw in a few guitar licks from Tony and some great drumming from Ray. Excellent track. You and I, it's a nice interlude piece out, the heaviness of All Night Petrol. Then we get the last track, Homicidal Suicidal. Great track. Great solo on here from Tony. Very underrated track. I think this is a very underrated album for a debut. This band should have done more. It's a shame they didn't. It's so raw, it feels like they're playing in your lounge. Great album. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.3. So we've got to my number one. Any of these three could be my number one. But this week it's this one, and I think because it does include one of my all-time favourite Budgie tracks. We're talking about the fourth album, released in 1974, In for the Kill. We've got Burke, Shelley, Tony Boydon. And the only album that featured Pete Boot on drums. Yes, Pete Boot. What happened to him? Opens up with the title track, In for the Kill. Wow. Talk about Let's Start was something great. Ooh, that riff, brilliant. Great vocal from Burke Shelley. Absolutely kills it on the vocals. Then we get Crash Course in Brain Surgery. Maybe a short track, but it's just a fast, furious rock track. Great stuff. Wondering What Everyone Knows. One of the better slow acoustic numbers here. I love the bongos in this. It really adds to it. And I like that one. And then we get my favourite track, Zoom Club. It's just one of the best tracks they ever did. Great piece of rock music, some great licks, some bass in here. It sounds like it's a 9-minute thing. It's just a jam. I don't know if it's a planned jam, but they just seem to be having a great time. It's a fantastic track. Hammer and Tongues, another great track. This is so much Black Sabbath without them. It's not as heavy as the Black Sabbath sort of track, but it's got that feel to it. It's got the structure of a Black Sabbath track. Brilliant guitar work. The solo on that is brilliant. Running From My Soul. Track. Great tracks on there. The bass line is just brilliant. Lots of great riffs and licks from Tony. Makes this a good track. And then we get Living on Your Own. Another solid track to end the album. The driving bass line, the driving riffs, some superb drumming from this Pete Boot. Brilliant. Brilliant track. I think this is the heaviest album that Budgie ever put out. Even though you've got that slower track with the bongos, every track on here is just killer. Some of Tony Budgie's best guitar work, I think. And Burke's vocals on here is probably his best. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.5. Well, there we go. There's a bit of Budgie. Such an underrated rock band. They're one of them bands that nearly made it big. I think they're a great band. I enjoy listening to a bit of Budgie. Okay, that's all for this one. Well, I'll be back later for classic album, and we're going to go look at one of the Zombies albums. We're going to look at Odyssey Oracle, and then after that we have got an RTO special today. Top 10 Simple Minds singles with Mr. Richard McCook. So you got 3 shows today. And if you like this, and if you're a bit of a Budgie fan, give me a little thumbs up. And if you really like it, why don't subscribe and hit that bell, and so you don't miss out on any of the stuff. So I will see you later for the classic album. Bye for now.